Hello.
Hi.
Hey Ernie, you guys. Okay.
Okay. We are on Samech 68.
Yep.
So we said that if you donate your ancestral field to the Beis Hamikdash, you deduct a certain amount, you pay a certain amount per year to redeem it from Hegdish. So maybe it's different there because Rachmana Ukma Pidya. The Torah set up Hegdish to be redeemed. But but in the case we were talking about yesterday, it's a loan, and therefore, meaning if people didn't eat, even though they deducted what they ate from the principle of the loan, because it looks like ribbis. Ravashi. The elders of Masa Machse said, Stamashkanta Shata, that a lender, when he takes collateral, a field, at minimum, he's allowed to eat peros for a year. Before, even in those communities where you could get rid of him, if he ate the amount of the loan of peros in that year, but you'd have to wait at least a year before you got rid of him from the land. Now, that if he's eaten for at least a year, you can get rid of him. You can't get rid of him if he hasn't been there for at least 12 months. The word mashkanta, you live there. Because basically when you take a piece of land as a mashkanta, it's considered as if you're dwelling there. Now, to what halacha is that relevant? There's a halacha that if you wherever you live, you have first rights of refusal to buy the piece of land next to you. It means if you have a neighbor and he's going to sell his piece of land, he has to offer it to you first. That's called the din of bar metzah. So the nafkamina here would be, since this mashkanta is in his possession, he would also have the right to have the field next to it as well. The halacha is not like the Rav Papa used to accept a higher payment for beer to, if he was going to, if he could deliver it later. And not like the stars of Mechuzah, and not like the business arrangements of Narshoy. We don't do that. They would have a business deal. They would loan money for a business deal. And the guy who borrowed the money is going to run around and do the business. And if you're going to add to the principal some of the profit, that's not permitted. It looks like ribbis. Because they would write it in the star. Because maybe there won't be profits. And then the guy who borrowed the money and is running around and doing all the work isn't being paid for his work. All that work is going to be viewed as ribbis. Abba Ovid Hachi. My father would do this type of deal. They would, and he would add the profits to the loan. And if the party said, "Oh, I didn't make a profit," he would deduct a certain amount from the principal of the loan based on whatever work the borrower did as part of the deal that he was borrowing the money to do work. He wouldn't be able to not get paid for that. Fine. That's if the borrower was still alive. What if he died? No one's going to know, the Yisrael are not going to know exactly what the father did. Well, since he talked about the halach of someone dying, it's like, Al tiftach pela satan. V'nach nafshe damemer, and Damemer died. Then they would also not do the halacha like chakir and arshoy. What is that? The kasviachi mashkin le planya ari le planya. The borrower would give a piece of land to the lender, and then he would lease it back. He would take it back on a lease for a certain price. And that would be on top of the value of the loan. Amos kanoi dr niale. It looks like ribis, that extra amount that's being paid back to him. Now, in our days, when we write a certain nusach that I acquired from you now, and then I lease it back to you, that will work. Why? We want economic business to flow. We want people to loan money. Shapir dami v'lav milsihi. But the halacha is not like that either. Since there was no kinyan gomer, it looks too much like ribis. Mishnah. Ein moishivin chen v'ni l'machzis schar. You cannot give fruit to a storekeeper, and the storekeeper will sell the fruit in the store. And let's say the lender lent him money for him to buy the fruit. And then the lender is going to get half of the profits. And if they say that a certain amount has to be returned no matter what, whether he makes money or not, so that looks like ribis. So you're not allowed to do it. Whether you loaned him money, whether you gave him payros for half the profits. You have to pay the one who's providing either the money to buy the payros or the payros itself. The storekeeper has to be paid for his wages, for the work. Otherwise, the work that he's doing is going to be viewed as ribis. And you pay him kipoya like a regular worker. Similarly, in Moshivin Tarnagolim Lamechza. You can't give a chicken. You loan your chicken to sit on your neighbor's eggs, or vice versa. He gives his neighbor eggs, and his chicken will sit on it. And then they're going to sell the chicks and divide the profits. So there's a little bit of a loan, and there's a chashash of ribis if they don't pay him for his work. You can't give animals to somebody to grow them in their field. Then they're going to sell them and divide the profits. You have to pay the guy who's working with the animals. If you don't pay him, all that work that he's doing is ribis. Unless they didn't split it 50-50. If you split it 70-30, so if the part of that 70 is his wages, so then it would work. If you do a business deal, each side participates to a certain extent. One has the calf, and the other is going to do the work. And once they reach a third of their growth, then you can sell. And if each one gets a percentage that relates to either their work or their investment, that's permitted. Similar, chamor, when's the time that you sell a chamor? Ad shetei toenes, until it's big enough to carry a burden. Ta'ana, when we said a worker could poil bottle. What's a poil bottle? Like a poil bottle. How much would a person want to get in a certain profession to stay home from work and to do some easy job. Now, why do I need the tricha? Why do I need both by a storekeeper who accepts fruit to sell or accepts money to buy fruit? Itana chenveni hu desagile kapol bottle. A storekeeper doesn't do a lot of back-breaking work. Mishum de lo nafish tirche. So that's why you can pay him like a worker. But if they gave him money, likach ben peiros, there he has to go to the downtown marts and buy the fruit to nafish tircha. Maybe even lo sagile kapol bottle. Maybe it wouldn't be enough to pay him like a lazy worker. If I would have only been told the case where money is loaned and he buys the fruit and then they split the profits, there he gets paid because he's doing a lot of work. What does the storekeeper do? He just sits and collects money. Maybe just he gets to dip his bread in some vinegar with the guy. You don't have to pay him a full salary. I might think that's enough. So tzricha had to be told in both cases, he has to be paid like a pearl bottle. How much is his wages? Bein meruba, bein mu'ed. Whatever they decide, the Reb Meir. Even if there's a very minor payment, enough for him to dip his bread in vinegar. Or he ate with him one biscuit. He gets full wages. Ein shamin. When somebody's going to give an animal to a farmer to grow, and then they come up with a price. Not the goats and not sheep. You cannot do it if it's going to be a 50-50 division without paying the guy who grows it a special fee. No. The guy who's growing the goats can keep the milk. And they're going to make wool. Vishutafos, umortois, or he's going to pluck the thorns out of the wool. He's going to be able to benefit from that. Then the vesatana goes with leshi oisavoichelas. The guy growing the chickens can take some of the eggs as payment. So Vatana Kama, what does he say? Giza v'chelav lo safek is keeping the shearings and the milk not enough to pay l'schara melu mezoinos? Begiz v'chalav kulam lo pligi. Yes, when it comes to the shearings and the milk, everybody would agree that would be good payment. Ki pligi b'nisyuve v'tutri, the whey, W-H-E-Y, the whey, after the milk is taken away, when you make cheese with it. Or with the remnants of the goat hair. The whey and the remnants of the goat hair is not enough payment. Even a minimal payment, enough to dip your bread in vinegar, that's enough. And you're not makpid anymore. You can rent a chicken to your friend to sit on the eggs. Her payment would be 2 of the chicks. The work that she does in doing it has to be recompensed, so she gets 2 chicks. The chicken is mine, the eggs are yours. And we'll divide the chicks that grow. Rav Yehuda mativ, Rav Shimon also. Rav Yehuda says it's permitted, Rav Shimon prohibits. I understand, Rav Yehuda, little boy, don't you have to pay the services? The work that they do is going to be considered ribbis. So the Gemara says, Ike beitzi muzaros. The eggs that don't have chicks in them, those will also remain to the owner of the eggs as payment. Lemos, behemo, mali. In the place where there was a minig, that the people who were growing animals, that you had to pay them extra to schlep, because you have to carry them on their back, mali, you have to pay them. That has to be calculated in the salary. We don't change the minig. Rab Shimon Gamliel Omer Shamin, Egel Emimo, Siach Emimo. If the calf is walking around with his mother, so you can deduct, it's less work for the keeper. Even in those places where they would pay the shepherd or whoever's growing the animals to schlep them. Does he not require it? So we answer, because the animal goes to the bathroom, the dung can be used for fertilizer, and that's a little profit. What does the other side say? Galili mafkuri mafkul doesn't belong to anybody, they're mafkir. So we can't calculate that as part of the schar. B'nei Rav Ilish, Nofik Alayahu Shtar. There were the children of Rav Ilish, someone produced a shtar that their father would sign. It was a business contract, the Avakosiv Bey, that the two sides, Palga Ba'agar, Palga Behefsid, that they will divide 50%, they'll keep the profits, and 50% the losses. But not more. But what about, remember, one guy is the financer. One guy's giving the money. The other guy's doing the work. So you can't just divide 50-50 profits and loss. Who's going to pay the guy who's doing the work? That's ribbis. So Amar Rav Ilish Gavarabu. Rav Ilish was a big man. So he wouldn't feed people ribbis. So manivshach. There was some kind of mistake in the shtar. Ipalge ba'agar, if they were going to divide 50-50 profits, trade tilsa be'epsid, the lender would have to accept 2/3 of the loss. And that way, there wouldn't be ribbis to the guy who's doing the work. Okay, stop here.
Excellent. Very good.
Let me stop.
Yeah. So what time tonight?
At 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8. Okay, very good. All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
We will see you tonight.